Welcome! You may be asking yourself, what is ScaleIO? ScaleIO is software-defined storage from Dell EMC that provides data center scale block storage using standard x86 servers and Ethernet networking. This enables data centers to move away from proprietary hardware, delivering more functionality and reliability from commodity servers and networks. ScaleIO is incredibly versatile, with clusters ranging in size from at least 3 into the thousands, in both hyperconverged and storage-only configurations. This allows you to start small and easily grow as demand grows, increasing your cluster size by small or great numbers, automated and transparently. No matter the size, each node in a software-defined storage cluster has a bit of administrative overhead during deployment. Server management, hypervisor, and storage software all need multiple networks configured, root passwords set, and software installed and updated. Depending on the size of the cluster, this could take several days, even for a team of admins. In this video, we're going to demonstrate how ScaleIO enables a single administrator to deploy a complete cluster in less than 30 minutes from node power on. To do this, we'll start with a 3-node cluster, leveraging Dell EMC Ready nodes for ScaleIO. Ready nodes are optimally configured x86 servers with the hypervisor and ScaleIO virtual machine pre-installed. Ready nodes are available in a wide variety of configurations: 2U 24-disk systems based on the Dell PowerEdge R730XD, and 1U 10-drive systems based on the PowerEdge R630. Each is available in all-flash, hybrid, or HDD-only configurations, as well as hyperconverged with more RAM and CPU, or as storage-only personalities. Before we get too far into the demo, we should take a few moments to introduce some ScaleIO concepts and acronyms. Let's start with the host. The host is the OS or hypervisor onto which the ScaleIO software or virtual machine is installed. Today we are using VMware ESXi as our host. Since our host is a hypervisor, ScaleIO will run in its own virtual machine, referenced as the SVM or ScaleIO virtual machine. Let's expand the SVM to highlight two key roles. The first are the ScaleIO data clients, which manage the host connection to the ScaleIO storage, and the ScaleIO data servers, or SDS, which manage the local storage and present it to the SDCs as a large pool. Some nodes act as metadata managers, or MDMs. MDMs direct SDCs to the correct SDS node. Every cluster has at least 2 MDMs, a primary and secondary. The tiebreaker role is required to help decide which MDM is primary in the event of a network failure. Let's take a look at the steps required to build our 3-node ScaleIO cluster. The first step is the physical installation of nodes into the data center racks. Dell makes this easy with Ready rails. These rails require no screws and, thankfully, no screwdrivers. After installing into the racks, nodes will need to be cabled to the networks. 3 physical networks are required: a 1 gigabit management network for the iDRAC, hypervisor, and ScaleIO management networks, and a redundant 10 gigabit Ethernet network for data and intercluster communication. Data networks can get fairly complicated for very large clusters with hundreds of nodes, but put simply, the only requirement is that each node be able to communicate with both every other node and every SDC. This image shows how the networks in our 3-node cluster used for the demo are cabled. While the nodes are being physically installed and cabled, our admin can get to work installing the ScaleIO management software and configuring the information the deployment wizard will pull from in order to configure node security, networks, and connect them to vCenter. Once the management software is configured and the nodes have been powered on and cabled to their networks, the automated deployment can begin. When we log in the first time, we'll be prompted to do our initial setup, where we define the passwords and IP addresses for each of the networks and software layers. There are some specific guidelines detailed in the introduction section. Feel free to pause if you'd like to read them in detail. At each step during the deployment, we will have an opportunity to review and change settings before advancing to the next step. This outlines all of the steps taken during the automated deployment. Under Security, we set the desired root or admin password for each software layer. Here we set a range for a pool of IP addresses, from which the automated deployment will pull IPs for each node. The data networks are the redundant 10 gig Ethernet private networks, labeled here as Data Network A and B. Finally, we establish our connection to the vCenter server and select the data center into which the nodes will be placed. To start the deployment, provided our nodes have been installed, cabled, and powered on, we just click the Add Nodes button. Because this was a ScaleIO lab, we found 8 nodes, but we are just selecting the 3 nodes we're using today. We've sped things up a bit, but a running clock is always visible. The IP addresses are applied. To change any of them, we could have selected the IP before proceeding. Here we see our A and B networks and IPs from the pools we defined earlier. During the deploy step, cluster roles are assigned and needed software is deployed and configured. Protection domains are much more relevant for larger clusters, and we'll have another video later on which covers them in much greater detail. Because these nodes have a mix of SSDs and HDDs, we need to choose how the SSDs will be used. We will configure them as cache devices, applying the setting to all of the nodes and accelerating the performance of our HDDs. Finally, we confirm that each device is assigned to a storage pool. While we only have one pool here, larger clusters may have multiple pools, varying in performance or availability characteristics. A later video will cover storage pools in much greater detail. Once the storage pool is created, the deployment is finished. Our total time was just over 27 minutes, and remarkably, would have been very similar with dozens or hundreds of nodes. The Hardware tab allows us to review the configuration of each node, see its IP addresses and cluster role, and see any hardware components that may have issues. The dashboard shows us our capacity utilization, a performance overview, as well as other information relative to the day-to-day management of the system. Having fully deployed our ScaleIO software-defined storage system, our next step, which we cover in the next video in this series, is to provision storage to our clients, the VMware hosts.